Hey Garth, how's it going?
Hey, Jason. I'm pretty good.
Got a joke for you. You
Of
ready?
course you do. Yeah.
Why'd the principal bring a ladder to empathy training?
Why did the principal bring a ladder to empathy training?
Yeah,
I don't know.
we want everybody to reach new heights of understanding, my friend.
Oh, that's nice.
Right? Right?
I really
It's
like
like a little
that.
metaphor for the leaders out there. Carry a ladder into your next empathy training and drop that one, see how it goes.
Who doesn't love props in a meeting, right?
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
Yeah. So, how's your week been?
It's been awesome, man. It's so good to be back at school with kids. We're recording
Yeah.
this, a couple days into school, and I'm just so happy to see kids at school. It's the best, Garth.
Yeah. Yeah. We've been talking about empathy, and something always, a really great leader, a principal from a couple of schools ago, always warned me about welcoming people back to school
Oh
because
yeah?
you don't know what has happened
Oh
over the
yeah?
summer.
Oh yeah?
Joy,
Yep.
loss, grief, happiness, whatever,
Oh, you got it.
difficulties, all those things. So it's not like, oh my God, welcome back. How was your
Yeah,
summer?
right?
Was it so great? It
Right.
was more like, hey, welcome back. We're just so
Yeah.
excited you're here.
Yeah,
Like
that's
it's so
important.
great to see you. Any highlights? You can go with that, or
Yeah, love that.
I hope you're well rested. What are you
Love
looking
that.
forward to? Something along those lines. And it always stuck with me because we tend to come back and it tends to be like, toxic positivity in the first, like, this is gonna be the best
Yeah.
year
Yep.
ever, all that stuff.
Yep.
So, in our conversations with empathy, this has come to mind this last sort of week and a half as we welcome new faculty to the school,
Yep.
but also faculty who are returning, and of course our students as well. Who, being a teenager these days, not easy. So that always stuck with me, and I thought I'd bring it here because we're talking about empathy.
Well, Garth, I love that. And I hope our listeners love this episode. We're going to drop into some actually heavy topics, talking
Yeah,
about everything from, loss to coaching to, employee termination, frankly,
yeah.
in this episode around empathy. So what do you say? Should we get into it?
Get into employee termination. I try to avoid it whenever. Yeah. I was Jason. I think this is a great episode because you and I share a little bit about what we learned from Annalisa Bond, but also our own experiences. So
Yep.
hopefully, listeners, you enjoy. Again, any questions, insights, comments, always welcome.
Let it roll.
Here we go. Yep.
With Garth and Jason, we dive right in, breaking down Ted's world. Let's begin from AFC Richmond's field to your day to day. Lassoing leadership's here to stay. Keep leading the lasso way. Together we'll grow stronger every day. So plug in your headphones and let's start the show. With lessons from Ted, we'll learn and grow.
All right, everybody. Welcome back to Lassoing Leadership. I'm Garth Nichols, your host.
And I am Jason Rogers.
This is episode 3 in our sort of cadence of 3 podcasts on leadership themes. And this is episode 3 of the leadership theme of empathy.
Yeah, Garth, I'm excited. This is our first chance to unpack one of these themes in the next 15 minutes. As you mentioned, we're going to, again, look at the definition of empathy in our leadership practices. We're going to revisit some of the highlights from our guest, Annalisa Bond. Thank you for coming on, Annalisa. That was so fun. And we actually have some listener questions today. So that's a lot of firsts for us on the pod today.
Yeah, can't wait to get into it. Let's get started.
Okay, so we start our conversation with empathy with some ways that it plays out in our experiences and some definitions of as well. Do you want to jump in on that, Garth?
Yeah, we talked about how, empathy involves perspective taking, perspective seeking, at least recognizing the perspective of others, staying sort of out of our judgment and seeing emotion in others and trying to communicate with them. And I reference Brené Brown a lot, I think. Empathy is feeling with people. Compassion is the awareness of suffering of others with the desire to do something to relieve that suffering. So if we can attune ourselves and our students and families as leaders, then we can think in a different way, and we can certainly lead in a more kinder and more compassionate way too. And Jason, you spoke a bit about what you learned from one of your mentors, Hal Hannaford, and 20% down. Do you want to remind us what that was?
Yeah, so it's such a big one in our leadership, Garth. I mean, it comes back to, an epic speech that Hal and Susan gave at several conferences. I know they still do it. And Hal talks about, his ups and downs with mental health challenges throughout his headship and beyond. And Susan talks about how it may have impacted their family and work life. But at the end of the day, Hal really comes back to the point that, 20% of the people we surround ourselves are struggling with something we may or may not ever see. And really having that pause to understand that everybody is living a life and we probably don't have all the details and we're never going to fully see through their eyes, which is, I think, the goal of empathy, but, really looking to look out for one another. So, I think that's a massive takeaway from Hal and about empathy.
Yeah. We talked, or we recommended, some TED Talks and some articles that we linked to on the pod. I kept going back to Brené Brown's short video on empathy versus sympathy. I think it's just so dense, poignant. And it illustrates how easy sympathy can be and how hard empathy can be.
That's amazing. And if you have 2 minutes, go and watch Brené Brown's video and remember that, because it's outstanding. And if you've got 20 minutes, come back to episode 2 of our podcast. I mean, we had the chance to talk to Annalisa Bond. She spoke about so many insightful things with regard to empathy. She talked about people having different relationships with the word. I'm not sure that there's one clear-cut definition. I can't tell you, Garth, how to be empathetic in every situation, really. Garth, I'd ask you the question. I mean, when somebody, as in your position as leader of school, when somebody comes to you, Garth, and says something you're not prepared for it and you don't know how to respond, maybe it's bad news, maybe it's confusing, maybe you're trying to make sense of it. How do you open with an empathetic statement and really lean into the listening that's required?
I think you hit the nail on the head here. Like, listening first and foremost. Again, don't go to judgment. Don't go to try and solve it too. Like that's what Brené Brown would say. Sympathy is trying to solve it or trying to compare it to something that's even worse. I generally just say, thanks for telling me. I'm here. Not what can I do, right? I'm here, and you just sort of like it's you just sort of hold that space as much as you can. And then I think as a leader, what you have to do, if they are sharing something, if you're, the people that you're talking with are sharing something that's meaningful to them, or maybe it's hard to hear, or maybe it's a huge celebration. I think as a leader, you have to say, whatever I was walking towards or whatever's next on my calendar, I need to just be comfortable with pushing that back a little bit and holding the time to really listen and get as much as you can. Again, it could be joy, it could be hard, it could be challenging, but those are moments of leadership. Those are moments of building relationships. Those are moments of building trust, all those things. Yeah.
I think, Garth, that's huge. And I think there's two things come up for me when you're talking. One is in teachers college, we learn about wait time and how uncomfortable those moments of silence can be.
Yeah.
And I think too, listening requires a lot of wait time, particularly in these moments that require deep empathy. So I think that's the first thing as you're speaking, it comes to mind. I think the second thing is, once you start to have a conversation about whatever the situation is, asking the question, how can I support you today? How can I support you tomorrow? What do you need? And again, listening deeply to that. And sometimes, I think Annalisa hit on this. I mean, leadership is sometimes walking that line between being over empathetic and taking a leadership stance, which it's not callous, but it's more operational and directive, where you're supporting people in that leadership way so that other people can be empathetic and be supportive. And so, it's not uncommon for somebody who I think is going through something for them to, after some pause, say, I need your support in helping with communications, in getting things organized, in sharing this with the community. And, as a leader, you sometimes have to walk back the deep empathy to get that done.
Yeah. And one thing that resonated with me from talking to Annalisa was that empathy is a skill and you have opportunities to practice it too. And I do find myself jumping to solutions quite a bit. So I try to walk back from that. Oh, sorry, I see what I was doing there. Tell me again. Or, something along those lines. I mean, there are strategies, there are ways to get better at empathy. And I loved hearing that from Annalisa. It was a good reminder. There's some actions that we can take. and I love that empathy. I love that about empathy itself and about leadership. It's a journey. It's a process. It's not a product, and it's ongoing, man. It's ongoing.
It's totally ongoing. And I think having grace for yourself and empathy for yourself, self-empathy is important as well, because you got to take care of yourself in these roles and understand that you're not always going to be perfect in the face of these challenges. And I think that, brings me to the final point around Annalisa's conversation. She talks about, the more and more responsibility you get, the more leadership you take on, you might feel compelled to act differently due to the expectations or the pressures that are put onto you. But I think, in Ted Lasso and the leadership we've been talking about, I think knowing yourself and honoring that and staying true to your authentic self is absolutely core in our leadership.
Yeah. Well, on that note, hey, listen, let's get to some questions from
let's do it.
our lifelong listeners, our OG listeners. The first one is from a former colleague of mine, Derek Doucette, is a dear friend, and he asks, we've got a clip.
Okay, let's cut to the clip.
Hey, Jason and Garth, quick question for you. Just wondering what the role of empathy is in leadership, dealing with the day-to-day. When is it important to turn it up? And when might it be, or is it ever important to dial it back? Super curious. Love the podcast. You guys are great. Can't wait to hear your thoughts on this.
All right, Garth. I'm going to let you jump in on that. Why don't you take first step?
Yeah, I think Derek raises a really good question about empathy in the day-to-day and can it be overused? I think, going back to Annalisa, she said there is a danger of being over-empathetic. There is a danger of getting, I don't want to say off track, but where like that level of emotional lifting just becomes too much for you as a leader. If you do it too many times, you're over flexing that muscle, and people will start to recognize that and want something different from you.
Yeah.
Also, there is a possibility of burnout.
Yep.
Right. I can't handle all of these things that other people are bringing to me. And so you do have to set some boundaries. So that's what I would say. I would say to Derek's question. What about you, Jason?
I think there's, I think there are different roles you play as a leader. I think that's what it comes down to. And there is a place for, as we said earlier, for deep empathy and being there and sitting in the space with whoever it is, group of people, individual, your community. And I think there's a time for action. Like, I think there's a time to give clear, concise communication about the next steps forward, about the vision for the future or for whatever is to come. And I think there's got to be a strength there. So you have to balance those two off. And I think, none of that can be possible from a leadership perspective, in my view, Garth, if it wasn't for a strong professional network. And I think, Garth, you and I, before we came on the air here, we had a great chat, about 15 minutes, about real life situations that are going on, which, we can't necessarily share publicly, certainly not on the podcast, but without you, Garth, I wouldn't be able to hold the empathy for the folks who are around us. So I appreciate having you as part of my professional network and be able to share that. And I think our listeners, you have to mindfully build those relationships so you can have that strength when you need it.
Yeah. And I think too, having empathy for yourself.
Yeah.
Empathizing with yourself about not being empathetic enough sometimes. Right?
Good luck.
Yeah. Good luck. All right. Next question from our listeners. How can leaders balance empathy with making tough decisions, especially when those decisions may negatively affect team members? What do you got, Jason?
Well, Garth, when I was in my master's program, and I can't remember the article off the top of my head, but it effectively said, if this comes back to employees at work, right? And a tough decision you might make at work is having to let somebody go because the job isn't working out or there's another situation. What the article posited was that most employees who have moved from one job to another, in education and otherwise, due to a performance reason, ended up happier and more successful as a result of that move. And so while in the moment it is hard and you need to be empathetic and you need to think about that, and you need to make good, clear decisions on employment, I think we can have some solace in the fact that we are supporting people by assisting with tough life decisions on occasion. And so, I think that's just the reality of leadership and, dare say, management is supporting people in making good decisions about employment, if that makes sense.
No, totally. I actually, this happened to me many years ago at a former school where one of my colleagues just wasn't performing to their best.
Mm-hmm.
And we went through a faculty assessment, and it was, as Annalisa says, you need to be curious and seek understanding. And it was little things like this person was late for a lot of early morning things, even though she was in the building.
Mm-hmm.
They were late for a couple of things, and they were staying late at the school for sure. It wasn't a matter of like work ethic. It was like, how are they spending their time? Mm-hmm. And it was deep empathy that brought me into this coaching role. Like, tell me more. And we mutually, over the course of about a month and a half, it was pretty intense, but we mutually came to this idea that, where this person was in their career wasn't where they needed to be. Mm-hmm. And they shifted away from being a classroom educator to being a social worker. That's what they were. That's what they really wanted to do. It was feeding the relationships. It wasn't the curriculum. It wasn't the pedagogy. It was the relationships. So, I mean, what it reminded me of in this conversation was what you want for that person who you're having who's maybe having a challenging time in your organization isn't necessarily what they want.
Yeah.
So being open and removing yourself from that judgment or those assumptions of what that you think they want really helps. And so too does this, I think back to Quinn Simpson, right? This coaching model approach is like, it's just huge when it comes to empathy and practicing empathy.
Well, I think something else you said there too, Garth, really resonated is you said it took a long time and it took a lot of patience. And I think, to truly empathize, we can't expect to do that in the moment. I think sometimes you need to sit, listen, soak, meditate, whatever you do in time, maybe with person or on your own. And I think just, being patient in our leadership is something that we don't do often enough because we want that fast solution. And I don't think you can do that very often.
Yeah. I think you're right. So listen, thanks so much. We're winding up here. We love our listeners. We're so grateful you took the time to get these questions to us. So please keep them coming, because our next theme is...
Drum roll,
Jason,
please.
Can you actually insert a drum roll here? Well, our next theme is positivity.
Garth, I'm positive that this is going to be a wicked series. We've got some great guests coming up and really talking about how positivity impacts our leadership and more importantly, how our thinking impacts our positivity. I mean, we're gonna have a compelling conversation with a leader about self-thought, self-talk. I can't wait for our listeners to take that in. I think it could change a game for many of our leaders out there who are listening.
Yeah, it'll certainly get them thinking. So thanks for listening. We'll see you on our next pod. But thanks so much, and until next time, keep leading the empathetic way.
Yeah, you got it. Thanks, Garth.
Thanks, Jason. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Step up to the mic, it's time to play. Lassoing leadership every day. From the pitch to the boardroom, lessons call to mind. Keep leading the lasso way, you'll find we've got heart, we've got soul, and humor too. Exploring how TED shows what leaders should do. With Garth and Jason, we dive right in, breaking down TED's world. Let's begin from AFC, Richmond's field to your day-to-day. Lassoing leadership's here to stay. Keep leading the lasso way. Together we'll grow stronger every day. So plug in your headphones and let's start the show. With lessons from TED, we'll learn and grow.